Hi, I'm Cautex, and the second week of the Sepulcher of the First One's Race to World First has just completed, so let's talk about what we saw the DPS warriors in Liquid and Echo doing during this week of progression. On Anduin, we saw both guilds running 2 warriors, though there were some differences in how they built out those warriors. For Liquid, both of their warriors were Fury, and they both soulbound with Karain. The difference here is that one of them, Atrocity, was running Signet of Tormented Kings, and Lighty was running Deathmaker. Atrocity took a more standard AoE build, taking Bladestorm and Anger Management for maximum value out of Signet. The obvious reasoning for this is that he wanted to maximize his AoE damage for the intermission phases. Because the intermissions have 2 sets of adds, and these adds hop in rather than just being there instantly, this means that you can get a lot of value out of Karain, and combining First Strike with Merciless Bone Grinder and Bladestorm is going to do a lot of work in those intermissions. Lighty, on the other hand, wanted to get the value of having First Strike and provide some decent AoE DPS, but really wanted to focus more on doing single target DPS to the boss, and so that's why you see him running Deathmaker, and probably the most interesting choice to me is the fact that he took Meat Cleaver. The obvious justification for why he chose to do this over taking Bladestorm or taking Dragon's Roar is that Bladestorm is hard committing to AoE and is best suited for the intermissions, but there's also Phase 2 that has the adds that need to be cleaved. And the primary reason to take Meat Cleaver is in order to free up global cooldowns so that you don't have to use Whirlwind so often. This becomes especially valuable when you're not running Merciless Bone Grinder and also when there are fewer targets. Echo, on the other hand, ran 1 Arms Warrior and 1 Fury Warrior. Just like Liquid, both of these warriors were Karain because of the value provided by First Strike on this fight. Swexecute did a pretty much copy-paste of what we saw Lighty doing with running Deathmaker and also Meat Cleaver. Revis, on the other hand, decided to do what Revis does and just make really big brain / strange plays that no one else would do. So obviously he was Arms, and he ran Signet, but he didn't run a standard Signet build. The real linchpin for understanding why he picked this exact build is to look at why he took Anger Management. And the reason why he did that is because in the intermission, with Anger Management, it was possible for him to get 2 Bladestorms, 1 for each set of adds. Getting a Bladestorm for each set of adds means that you also get Merciless Bone Grinder for each set of adds, which is really, really good. Since Anger Management's all about being able to spend as much rage as you possibly can to reduce the cooldowns on your abilities, that's why you would take War Machine, because, well, that's going to give you a boatload of rage, and that means that you can then spend that on Whirlwinds or whatever ability you want to use. Since the goal is to be spamming Whirlwind during Merciless Bone Grinder, but you also need to be doing boss damage, that's why you would take Fervor of Battle. One of the bolder picks is to take Collateral Damage over Warbreak. To me, what seems to be the most logical reason for why he chose to take Collateral Damage instead of Warbreaker is the fact that when you're in the intermission phases, you have a massive damage multiplier. All these damage multipliers interact, well, multiplicatively. So you have the big multiplier from that, you also have a big multiplier from Merciless Bone Grinder, and then you're going to get a third multiplier from Collateral Damage. Having more and more sources of multipliers just is worth more than the sum of its parts, and so that's why I think he did that. You'll also see that he took Adaptive Armor Fragment instead of taking something like Mortal Combo or Crash the Ramparts. The reasoning for this is, again, he's stacking multipliers. Getting a stacking strength multiplier instead of just a stacking straight-up damage multiplier. He wants his Whirlwinds to be as beefy as he possibly can make them. And, well, for example, Crash the Ramparts isn't really that good if you're not taking Dreadnought. Mortal Combo is only really good for single target, even though it technically has a good interaction with Sweeping Strikes, because you also, again, have another strength multiplier from the Force set as Arms. He either did some math or just had a gut feeling that Adaptive Armor Fragment was going to provide more value to his DPS overall than one of the other conduits. For Lords of Dread, we saw a lot of warriors. Both guilds ran 4 warriors each, all of them were Arms, all of them were Night Fae, and all of them were running Enduring Blow. All 8 of these warriors that we saw from both Limit and Echo were using the same structure for how they built their characters for this fight. And that basic structure is that all of them took collateral damage, and all of them took Merciless Bone Grinder. The reasoning for this is that during the swarms, you do an insane amount of extra AoE damage with Whirlwind, and you want to buff that as much as you possibly can. The general premise being that just before the swarm, you would build up a big stack of collateral damage. Once the swarm starts, you would Bladestorm, and then you would spend that stack with Merciless Bone Grinder, and then hit the boss with a comically strong Whirlwind. This, combined with Sweeping Strikes every 30 seconds, just makes warriors so strong on this fight, and that's why you saw so many of them being brought. Now, there are a couple of nuanced differences between what Liquid did and what Echo did. For Liquid, all 4 of their warriors were Dreamweaver, whereas Echo had 2 of their warriors going Naya. Specifically, it was Revis and Wolf Disco. The reason why they went Naya clearly has to do with the fact that most of their melee were also Night Fae, meaning that they're going to get maximum benefit out of Bonded Hearts, giving you even more mastery whenever you use Ancient Aftershock. So for Revis and Wolf Disco, that means that after they Bladestorm, they would immediately Ancient Aftershock, get an absolutely massive mastery buff, which for Arms Warriors is Deep Wounds, which also makes you do more damage to the bosses, making the overall damage multiplier just that much higher. So in this case, what they're doing is they're basically trading getting more Whirlwinds out with Dreamweaver and Field of Blossoms, which is going to give you the haste. They're getting fewer overall, but each one that they do should be hitting harder. The other interesting bit of tech is that all 4 of the warriors in Echo were running Second Wind. I don't know if they're just doing this so that it will heal them up during the Among Us phases, or if it actually works during the regular boss phases. Regardless of when Second Wind is being used, this is something that we did not see Liquid do at all. On Rygelon, we saw 2 warriors from each guild, though in this case, both of the Liquid warriors were Fury, and both of the Echo warriors were Arms. For Liquid, they were Karain, and they ran Deathmaker. The main thing here is that they simply wanted single target damage, but because there are constantly Quasars coming in, that's going to give you a high uptime on first strike, making Karain very, very strong. For Echo, their reasoning was basically the same. They wanted high single target DPS, and they realized that they're going to get high value out of Karain, so they did that. But they went Arms and then went collateral damage to get some extra value out of their sweeping strikes. There isn't really any meaningful analysis to be brought out of here. I'm not sure which one was the quote-unquote right choice. Both of them are good. Both of them have a lot of value. It's just that Echo said that we think that Arms Warriors does this job a bit better than Fury, and Liquid said we think Fury does a bit better at this job than Arms. Now, at the time of recording this, both guilds are working on the Jailer. They have around 50 to 60 pulls each, so there's definitely going to be a lot of experimentation done by their warriors and how many warriors they're even running. And just as an example of how up in the air things are, there's been a number of pulls where we saw Revis running a cheat death trinket just simply so he could live longer and see more progression. So I'm not going to really talk about the Jailer at all until we see them get some kills. So we'll just have to wait till the next video, because hopefully they'll kill it this week. In the meantime, as always, tell me why my opinions are dumb. Tell me the things that I didn't notice. Tell me the things that I got completely wrong with my analysis. Or make predictions about what you think we're going to see in regards to warriors on the Jailer. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and subscribe for more.